Well, we're live. It's Easter Monday.
Yes.
This
a
is
holiday, actually, in Canada, I believe. Easter
You
Monday.
know, see, now that's reasonable. This is what they should do. They do it at Christmas. You have Boxing Day the day after.
Right.
And the day after Easter. They're basically holidays that ascribe to food hangovers. You need a day off.
Exactly.
Joe Chaffee, FiOS 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey.
And Joe Rayo, FiOS 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley. And it turned out to be, I'll tell you what, Joe, we said from the get-go during last week that Easter would have a shot at some scattered showers, but we also said that there would be more often than not periods of dry weather. It turned out to be, it could have been a lot worse. It turned out to be a semi-decent
it was very gloomy out my way. And about 2 o'clock or so, we broke out wide open. It was mostly sunny then. I had a cloud in the sky and a beautiful sunset at the end of the day. So it really turned out, the second half of the day, the first half of the morning even had a few rain showers around. But they just came and went, and then like I said, it broke out nicely in the afternoon and made for a decent Easter Sunday. So it's all good.
I had to go pick up my mom and my sister in the Bronx, and going down wasn't bad. Coming back north, we hit a very, very heavy shower on the Taconic Parkway, and it kind of sprinkled a little bit a few hours later. But in between, there were some good breaks in the clouds, some sunshine. So again, it could have been a lot worse. 1970, for example, when we had, up where I live, something like 8 to 12 inches of snow. So,
right, but that was an end of March event, not almost end of April event.
Right.
Well, this time around, at least for today, we had this, which is, this is still, well, part of it is what's left of the old storm system from late last week that brought all the severe weather up through the mid-Atlantic states, and that was on Friday. And here we are on Monday. We had one last wave develop. The upper air storm has moved eastward, and now they're vertically stacked.
Right.
The system is the low at every level, pretty much all the way up from the bottom of the atmosphere to the top. You've got this big low pressure cold core system, and we had lightning and thunder on the South Shore today. Right. I saw the rainfall amounts were anywhere from about 3/4 of an inch to 1.25 inches, and that was pretty deep. That was pretty good for this type of system.
Coming into work today, I did not see any lightning or hear any thunder. However, on the radio, I was hearing a lot of static, so I said, well, there's got to be some storm activity in the general vicinity. And as of right now, still some showers scattered about in the Hudson Valley, mostly east of the Hudson River. And as we move into the overnight hours, that will pull away to the east. The skies will clear, and that should set the stage for what will probably turn out to be a very, very nice day for tomorrow.
Well, there's your radar, what's left of it now. So the westernmost band is weakening, and there's like a little bit there up in Dutchess County that's sneaking over the Connecticut line. But this should start to gradually fall apart as we go through the night. I think tomorrow's going to be a fairly nice day. My only concern is for central and eastern Long Island for the start of the day. There still might be some leftover clouds around. But on the whole, I'm thinking this should be a pretty nice day. And we should see 70s. Even on Long Island, we'll probably see temperatures into the 70s, especially in Nassau and in western Suffolk County. And maybe a little bit less, but close to 70 as you get toward, say, Route 112 and the Billy Floyd and the William Floyd Parkway. I call it the Billy Floyd. And then you start to get into from Riverhead East, where clouds and that might hold temperatures down, maybe not much above 60 there.
What do you call the Seaford Oyster Bay?
The Sob.
The Sob. Okay.
The SOB.
Well, the one radio station I know on Long Island, the traffic guy always referred to it as the SOB. So.
Well, it's a straight line road from south north.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you have the SAG.
It's the SAG, right? The SAG.
Or is it the SOG? And then the Sunk.
The Sunk.
Oh. You try. So, look, one of my takeaways, this is a surface map, Joe, from, let's see if I got the latest one. Should be out. No, it's not.
Not yet.
But, this sometimes it doesn't take a very intense surface low to create a hassle. And that's really what we have today. This weak low that developed. There's no tight pressure gradient. This is not a big deal in terms of the wind, but you've got the dynamics with this upper low at work. And now this will pull away. We'll get the next system to move through. And overall, Joe, the pattern to me looks like, I'll just roll it back. This is the system from late last week, of course, right, which was the last of three rather dynamic, strong storms. Pulls away. And, after this, it just kind of looks, weather systems, they move along. Every couple of days we get a front. Then it looks like it gets a little, get a nice ridge to build in the east toward the last days of April into the beginning of May. I'm really not, I shouldn't have said that. I'm actually somewhat optimistic that going into May, we may have some decent stretches of weather with some, reasonable spring temperatures. We're running above average for the spring so far. I don't see why that would be any different as we head into the first week or so of May.
Well, the Climate Prediction Center, the folks who specialize in long-term predictions for NOAA, put out their experimental 3 to 4 week forecast. They do that every Friday. And they say that for the first half of May, below normal precipitation and above normal temperatures, implying that the first half of May around here will be unseasonably mild and rather dry, which I don't think anybody's going to be very upset with.
No, it totally works for me. Jessica Zerbis said thunder today in central Islip around 3 o'clock. Oh, no doubt. I saw it on our own radar here at Fios 1 News. We had the lightning strikes were on there about between 2:30 and 3 o'clock. There were lightning bolts all over the place along the South Shore.
That was probably the static, as I mentioned earlier on the radio. You just hear that, and you know that there's some kind of convective activity going on, and that was certainly the case today.
Chris Petronzio says, I had a horrible dream this weekend that we were getting 10 to 15 inches of snow. It took till I watched the last fan feed to finally summarize the snowblowers. Yes. Was that what we were doing? Did we talk? I had a conversation with somebody about a snowblower yesterday.
No, it wasn't me. In fact, I think I should check my snowblower and make sure that, unlike last year when Stupid forgot to drain it out of gas, and when I tried to use it with the first storm that we had in November, it wasn't working.
I always put stabilizer in mine.
Right. Oh, and as a result,
and so does Mrs. Rayo, from what I understand.
Well, we were able to fix it using something called mechanic in a
yes,
bottle.
Yes.
It was an unbelievable thing. We had it in our... She picked it up. It was in our garage closet. We poured it in. Boom. The damn thing worked. It was amazing.
Why does she not have her own show on DIY?
I've asked that many, many times.
I watched... I watched Love It or List It. I don't know if you've ever seen that on...
I've heard about it.
I love that. That's my favorite show. Only because I like the way Hillary... I wait to see what she comes up with.
Right.
Because I guess when it comes to being visual with stuff, I have no talent at all from that standpoint.
You ever, and I don't even know if it still happens anymore, but on, let's say, rural, minor market radio stations, when I was, traveling around, let's say, New England or upstate New York, there'd be a radio station that would have, basically, you would call in, you'd offer something to the general public or whoever was listening, and you'd actually give your phone number out over the air, hoping that somebody was going to call you and make you an offer on whatever. And that was, I haven't heard a show like that in a few years now.
Well, you can do all that through, your Facebook or there's all sorts of ways of doing it that way now.
Yeah, but it was so interesting to hear that on radio, AM radio, up until, as I said, a few years ago. And you only heard it, you never heard it in New York, but you would hear it up in these little...
No, we've got to get Mrs. Rayo her own show.
Yeah.
Some overalls and a hat.
She might be watching right now, so you better watch out.
If she's not watching now, she could watch. She may be watching it tomorrow morning. When she gets the notification on my weather app.
Yes.
That was subtle. There's more garlic sandwiches that pass through these live streams that you and I do. Frank La Salandra, who is a supporter and a top fan, by the way. What about all this late April and May heat they're talking about? Well, I'll just say this, Frank. One of the things you got to be careful about this time of year is that sometimes the upper air pattern shows that it's going to be very warm, but if the high's not in the right spot, you've got a problem, and you could have a big ridge in the east, but if the high is sitting up in New England, and you've got an onshore flow, good luck. And that's something that's a short range forecast problem. So you could look at the upper air pattern and say, yes, it does look warmer than normal, and then suddenly find yourself with a northeast wind over a 45-degree ocean, and you're not, then you're not warm. So we'll see when we get there. I tend to think that we'll probably have a few days where temperatures are going to be, I wouldn't call it heat, but warm for this time of year.
Yeah,
We've already pushed the 80-degree mark a couple of times.
Well,
So it wouldn't be a big shocker if we wind up doing it again soon.
I mentioned just a few moments ago that the Climate Prediction Center is suggesting above normal for the first half of May. Above normal, what does that mean? That means that temperatures may very well hit 80 degrees with semi-regularity. And
Right.
that's something that a lot of people...
And above normal spans over 50, that's the first half of May?
Right,
So you're talking about 15 days.
right.
So what if you have 5 really, really warm days and 10 somewhat below normal days, and it averages out when you do the math, it'll be a little bit above normal.
A little bit above normal.
So, it doesn't mean that the volatility isn't going to be there, but we'll deal with it when we get there.
Speaking of volatility...
Happy Easter to Timothy Veltman, and happy Passover. Yes, thank you. And to you, too.
Same from here. Speaking of volatility, considering how warm it's likely to get, at least inland tomorrow, and with a weather front rapidly moving through tomorrow night, I asked you this right up from the get-go when I got in today. What do you think our chances are of seeing any thunderstorm or convective activity
Tomorrow
night?
I threw in the chance for a shower, and I was looking at some of the stuff where, as the front's moving across PA, when it comes in with all the daytime heating going on, maybe that there might be something a little more convective. But I kind of thought that it was a fair chance that much of the stuff would fall apart before it got here. Yep. So I left in the chance for a shower overnight and just left it at that.
Yeah. And it's all gone. By Wednesday, you wake up and we're back out in bright sunshine. Not as mild on Wednesday as what we're going to see tomorrow, but still what I would call seasonably mild. In other words, instead of ranging through the 70s, probably more, at least in the Hudson Valley, like mid to upper 60s to around 70, which, again, is a bit ahead of the curve as far as this particular time of the year is concerned.
I just put the map up, the surface map. So here's your front for tomorrow. Let me just bring it wide so everybody can see it. And maps, of course, are always courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com. So here's your front for Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, which GFS doesn't really do very much with. Then it looks like the next system is going to be for late Thursday night into Friday. And then I think if that moves along, we certainly should have a decent Saturday, and who knows if the next weather system is going to go by to our north. If it does, maybe even Sunday won't be too bad. Just sun and high clouds or something. I'm guardedly optimistic.
Yeah. As well you should be at this time of the year.
I don't know about you, but after, with the winter the way it is, and we're always, we're basically busy for whether we work just as hard whether it snows or doesn't snow to a certain extent, because we're looking at all this stuff in the long range, and everyone's asking about this, that, or the other thing. I don't know about you, but when we get to the spring, I let go.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I'm not as focused as I should be. But that's because my brain is getting like jelly, and I need to relax it. I need to let the air out.
Exactly.
So that's my view of the springtime.
And the middle of next week, May the 1st, at least up where I live, hummingbird season opens. I always look forward to putting out the feeders, but I don't. And even though on hummingbird.net, yes, there is such a website, hummingbird.net, where they have these maps that show you the first sightings of hummingbirds. Where I live, have never seen a hummingbird earlier than the 1st of May, but it tells me that truly is the beginning of spring for me. And so I'm always a happy occasion to put the feeders out. It's kind of a sad occasion when I have to take them down about the middle of September, because that tells me that the winter is seemingly right around the corner in a relativistic sense.
Hummingbirds are pretty cool. They're actually pretty fierce predators.
Right.
And there's a hummingbird. Well, if I remember correctly, there's only one species of hummingbird in the east. There's a bunch of them in the west.
The ruby throat is the only one that you'll see in this part of the country. You're absolutely right. In the west, they have the rufous hummingbird, Anna's hummingbird,
Right.
a whole wide variety of hummingbirds west of the Mississippi. But here in the east, we have just one, and that's the ruby throat. And if you've ever set up a feeder and you've ever had a ruby throat come to the feeder, and the sun is just hitting that area where the ruby area is, and the green head, it's almost like iridescent. It's spectacular. And to watch these things fly up and down and backwards, it's amazing. They really are great. I tried so hard when I lived down on Long Island, but as a couple of bird experts told me, it's very difficult now to attract a hummingbird on Long Island.
Yeah.
You really need the wide open spaces and a good deal of woodland, and of course you have to put up the kind of like the trumpet vine or something that will attract hummingbirds.
I saw a hummingbird once at my house. I was sitting on my stoop. It was the oddest thing. It was about 7 o'clock at night, sitting on my stoop, and this hummingbird flew in front of me. Made like the cross, okay, twice, and then disappeared.
And never was seen.
And never seen again. I never seen one. And then I've been up in Pennsylvania, where you just hang something outside up in northeast Pennsylvania, up near Hawley, and stayed up there for a few days. Had my neighbor and close friend. She had hummingbird feeders out, and you'd be sitting there, and they'd be coming up to the front window, and they were amazing to watch.
Now, initially, I'll put the red food coloring in, only to try to attract them or to draw them in. Sometimes I even put a little red ribbon at the bottom. But once they know where the feeder is, then I just put in regular sugar water, and you can do that. That is preferable. You're not really supposed to use the food coloring because it's supposed to be not so good for the hummingbird. But I only do it at the very beginning of the season, and then for the rest of the season, it's just pure plain white sugar water. And I also have noticed over the years, Joe, that we get a lot of them during the hot months. Like not July, but especially so in August. And I suspect that they know that very soon it will be time to start their commute back south across the southern states and even across the Gulf of Mexico, and so they're probably bellying up, so to speak, and filling up on as much that they possibly can get. And you're right, they are very predatory. If you get 2 or 3 hummingbirds and they go for the feeder at the same time, you can watch a wonderful chase scene.
Yes,
they go at each other.
Well, I was recalling the fact that hummingbirds actually they nest near hawks. Hawks don't prey on hummingbirds or their nests, because basically they're not enough of a meal in a hummer for it to be worth the effort. I'm reading this off Audubon.org, by the way, and the hawk by weight is 190 times the size of a hummingbird. So it's basically the same reason if you want to catch a fly, you don't run after it.
Right.
But not only hawks are not a threat, but they actually may protect hummingbirds from their predators, which are the Mexican jays.
Oh. And
there's a picture of one at Audubon.org.
I didn't know that the jays were Mexican. I know blue jays and stellar jays. If you ever go to Arizona, the weirdest thing in Arizona, it's basically a blue jay, but it looks like the head is all black.
Right.
And I've never seen anything like that here in the East. So birds are
amazing.
It
seems like the whole bird population is much more varied out in the West,
right,
than it is in the East.
Right.
And I don't know if that has to do with the climate. Well, I'm sure it does, because you've got so many different climates out west. The desert climate, mountains, and everything else, which you really don't have as much here in the East.
Yeah.
And a lot of areas that may be inland and away from the big cities.
And in fact, populated. I don't know if you remember this, but when you first started at that other news outlet, all those many years
There
ago.
were several, but go on.
No, I mean here, the
All
one
right,
on the island of Florida.
right.
You used to do a running commentary in the morning about finches. That you had a finch.
Well, because I raised them. I actually raised them. I had them in my house, and they built.
And this guy used to do, like, before the weather, he would do the finch report.
It's a lot of fun.
You know what you should have done? You should have named one of those finches Claven.
Who's Claven Finch?
Remember? No, Claven and Finch. Remember that?
No.
There was a radio. It used to be on WNEW radio. Claven and Finch.
Well,
Actually,
you go back a little bit further than I do.
It used to be Gene Claven.
Oh, okay. Yes, I got you. All right, now.
And D. Finch.
Okay.
All right.
It's time to say goodnight?
I think it's time to say goodnight.
Good, because the audience already has. All right, folks. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Brian Fitzgerald on in the morning here at Fios One News. And I believe Brittany's back tomorrow with Addison Green on midday.
And then we're back in the afternoon and evening, and we'll see whether or not we have a little convection tomorrow night or whether or not the front just moves through with a spit here and there. And we'll talk tomorrow about how wonderful the day was, because I'm sure it is going to be a beautiful day tomorrow.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.